guys and gals? Now we're here from Drake Wing Game, and a 70 Mountain Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with the Let's Play episode of Kingsguard, Leandros' Path. So let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. There we go. Alright, let's do it, y'all. Okay. But it was a simple song, one that repeated, one that was better sung with others following right after like an echo. After two verses, Jaws joined in right after, somehow managing to keep up with his verse as you sung yours. One second, let me check something. Okay, just making sure HDR was off. After two verses, Jaws joined in right after, somehow managing to keep up with his verse as you sung yours. You looked at Jaws and then at Leandros, expecting him to continue. After the fourth verses, you heard his voice, deep and melodic. The three of you were all out of key, all singing in different tones and volumes, but it didn't matter, because it was a song to be sung with comrades, with family and friends. As you finished your part, you looked at the others and simply enjoyed the sound of their singing. Jaws had a deep rumble, like rolling rocks, but it was pleasant and warm. It made you feel safe somehow. And he finished, and Leandros was alone to sing his part. You could see the wide expression on the shark's face as he was taken in awe by your Kingsguard's voice. He was always such an incredible singer. And with that, the ice was broken. Leandros ate without inhibition, downing food and drink as though he had starved his whole life, and growled at you when you tried to take a piece from his plate. After a few drinks, the three of you were laughing at each other's tales and jokes. It's been long since I've laughed that hard. Heh, it wasn't that funny for me, I tell you. It's good to know that you weren't always the stick in the mud that you are today. Do you really find me that boring, Jake? Well, you could learn to loosen up a bit. Oh, really? Loose enough to do this? Leandros started to tickle you across the small table. Hey, no fair. Stop, I'm warning you. Gah, serves you right for tickling me. Show some sympathy for your elders. I got really hurt. Well, then maybe you should have tickled me then. It's just as you said, you two really are our closest family. It's moments like these that make me jealous that I didn't know my own. Perhaps it's for the best. Something can be a real pain in that... Ah! That's my line. Jake, I think it's time to tell you both. Upon Jaws' words, you felt your stomach drop to the floor. With how much fun you all were having, you had nearly forgotten why I came to meet with you and Jaws in the first place. And honestly, you had hoped you had forgotten as well. You still had a joke to tell that was now teetering on the tip of your tongue. It seemed as though it would have to be shelved for another time. So, you finally decided to speak. There was a strangeness to Leandros' words, almost as though he had anticipated what Jaws was about to say. But while you were rather surprised, Jaws, on the other hand, had remained poised. Had they discussed this before you arrived? No, if they had, Leandros would have been acting quite differently than his jovial self earlier, and he never had a good kingdom face. So, you already knew. I've known for some time now, and had my suspicions about you from before our meeting on the island. The two of them exchanged looks. Jaws was a solemn expression, and Leandros serious yet calm. He felt a bit left behind, knowing nothing of what they were talking about. Leandros, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Leandros already knows of my guilt, of my crime, my involvement in the attack on your kingdom, the assassination of your father, the dangers you are now running from. There was a sadness in Jaws' voice, as though he were struggling to speak and holding back from choking on tears. It was almost as if he were in a confessional before the very gods themselves, truthfully sorry for some sin that he had committed. If you are looking for pity, you will not get it from me. We may have shared a laugh and a drink, but I am the captain of the guard first before a friend or comrade. I have a duty to uphold the law and protect Yasan from threats. The fact that you have now confirmed that you had a hand in that atrocity is grounds for capital punishment. I hope you understand that. I have, which is why I cannot stay silent any longer. My life is of no importance when compared to that of the king. I am fully prepared to answer for my own crimes. Hold on, you two. You can't be serious. Capital punishment. Jaws, I don't know what you did, but that seems like too much. With everything that you've done for me, surely this is enough to forgive whatever crimes you've committed. After all, I'm king now. You're not a threat. I know that after spending these past few weeks with you. Jake, you can't allow your sentiments to take charge of your judgment. That is one of the first things your father should have taught you. He also taught me to value the allies that we have and treat them like family. Even so, all who wrong the crown, intentional or not, must be judged according to their crime. As king, you cannot pick and choose. If you pardon one for their crimes, then you must pardon all. Would you pardon Gaius as well? This is not the same thing. I can tell that Jaws is not the enemy. Let's at least hear Jaws out. He may have had nothing to do with it. I never said anything about not hearing him out. What? Leandros turned towards Jaws and breathed out deeply. You saved mine and Jake's life, throwing your own in the way of the rage that beast to protect us. Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps Jake was right to believe in you as an ally. But I still cannot shake the wariness in my heart that we are all being played. Which is why I will hear you out first before making any judgment calls. If I detect even the tiniest lie, I will only spill forth the truth. I'm not asking for forgiveness or to be redeemed. If at the end you feel as though I am a threat to the king's life, I will not run and hide. I can't tell if you are being brave or ignorant coming forth like this. It may seem like it should be none of my business, that I have nothing to gain from revealing all this. We've all done crazier things for even more absurd reasons. I made a promise to help Jake return home and keep him safe, and I'll see it through to the end. It's the least I could do for all the pain and grief that I caused for him. All right. Speak then. Tell us what you know and what you had hidden from us all this time. About the assassination, and Marilyn and Esther's involvement. Yet again you felt your heart drop, this time to the floor, so far down to the depths of the ocean that it would be impossible for even Jaws to retrieve. They were suspicious of even them. I only know as much as your kingdom spies discover. But when it comes to the suspects most likely to be involved, they were at the top of the list. Yeah, I suspected that as well. Leandros, what are you talking about now? Esther and Marilyn, they have no part in this. Jake, I know this may be difficult for you to believe because of your love and trust for your aunt and uncle, but ever since the day that they had made landfall in Havana, we have kept a close eye on them. You were spying on them? I understand your frustration, but know that the safety of the kingdom is a higher priority than privacy. We would never send out our spies unless we were certain that there was a cause for suspicion. And unfortunately, the signs leading up to the attack during the coronation pointed towards Esther and Marilyn. What? Leandros, how can you say that? You know them. You know how much they love me and you along with Father. No, Jake. It seems as though they picked and chose what to reveal themselves. You think they were lying to you? Have you completely lost your mind? This is our family we're talking about. They're the ones furthest to ever betray us. I am not simply saying this on a whim. Leandros' voice was curt as he strained himself. His bundled fists and somber face was enough to tell you that he was serious about what he said, which made it all the more harder to believe he was just pulling your leg. I was just as upset as you, but we found evidence, solid proof of their plans, and I'm sure what Jaws is about to tell us will only bring further validity to it. Jaws? The Beastman turned his gaze to the ground, remaining silent for a moment before he turned his head back up with a sad look of conviction. I do not know why they did it, but I know for a fact that they never had any intention of hurting you. Then they really didn't. I won't lie to you, Jake. They were the ones to bring the assassins into the capital. Them and me. But you were not the target, at least not in the sense that you were to be killed. What do you mean by that? Jake was like the son they never had. They loved him. And they would first end their own lives before ever wishing any harm befell Jake. You couldn't count the number of times they talked about wanting to see him again, to tell him of the places they had been and the gifts they brought. Even you must have realized that. Yet they brought assassins into the castle, and he was nearly killed. I know, but they never intended to kill him. I was waiting aboard the ship, waiting for their signal to leave. Yet when they arrived, they ordered me to keep the ship in harbor until Jake had boarded. Why would they have done so? Would they truly care so deeply for him if they wished to take his life? But none of this makes any sense. Our spies discovered that there were threats on both the late king's and Jake's life. Esther was next in line if something ever happened to the king or Jake. What other reason could they have for wreaking such havoc? Oh boy, this is getting juicy. Start from the beginning, when you first knew about all this. You were the captain of that ship. Surely you must have noticed a large influx of assassins boarding. That's just it. To me, they weren't just assassins. The ones that attacked the kingdom, they looked like soldiers, did they not? That was how they managed to make their way into the kingdom undetected. Yet you didn't find anything off about them when they came aboard. They were not normal assassins. They behaved with nothing like men or beastmen. They were mindless butchers, slaughtering anything that came across their path. While aboard the ship, they behaved nothing like that. To be honest, they were complacent to say the least. They never talked, rarely ate, and all they do was stand or sit around, doing nothing for hours at a time. That should have been enough of a hint to know that something was wrong. I merely thought that they were those who were scarred from battle. During my days as a pirate, it wasn't uncommon to find men who had their minds broken after witnessing the tragedies of war. Even so, surely you were curious enough to question Marilyn or Esther. I did. They told me exactly what I thought. Men exhausted from battle and returning home. I trusted their word and turned a blind eye to my intuition. When did they board? It was in a town called Valdenforth. A week before the coronation, we weighed anchor upon their dock. That is the town that we were supposed to be headed to before the beast took down the Syracusia. Does that mean, are they taking us to more assassins lying in wait for us there? I do not know. When we had first landed, I was ordered to stay aboard the ship. I never once really got to take a look at the town, but even then something seemed off about it. How so? It was the perfect weather to head out onto the water, yet there wasn't a single ship in sight for the ones docked. And even though I wasn't able to leave the ship, I could still make out parts of the town. I don't remember seeing a single person out and about. Valdenforth is a fishing town and a main port of trade for the Red Sea. It would be impossible to not spot even a single sailor, yet none were out in water. So many boats all lined up at the dock and with no one coming to man them. And Esther and Marilyn, they were only gone for about an hour or so, but when they returned they had a haunted look upon their face. When I questioned them if everything was alright, they simply told me to prepare the ship for departure. Soon after the soldiers came, they marched aboard the ship, and then we left, as soon as we had arrived. How many? At least 100. There were at least 24 or so in the room during the crowning, and several groups chasing us from the streets. I never thought they would have brought so many, especially if it was to be just a simple assassination. And you, what were you doing when you arrived in Havana? I left to see the town. And the soldiers? They stayed aboard the entire day. It wasn't until the dead of night when they finally moved. All at once they left the ship, and that was the last I ever saw of them. And that night that Kishiro had found those soldiers, the ones that had attacked him and the citizens. They'd originally come from the ship. He said they smelled of death, and their eyes were black and cloudy like those stricken with madness. It seems this matches with what you said. We had several disturbances throughout the weeks following up to the coronation, including a note we found of the assassination. Those soldiers that were smuggled in must have been the main force to carry out the plan. I should have stopped them, yet you didn't, and there's no changing that now. Continue. What happened after? Then, when the day of the coronation came, Esther and Marilyn spoke to me. They had this serious look in their eyes, their arms and legs shaking in fear. I was told to stay aboard, and that if anything should happen, to be prepared to leave at notice. I tried to ask them what they meant, but they quickly left, and then... I believe you know what happened. When they came back, they were scared and frightened, claiming that there had been an attack. I was ready to lift anchor and leave, yet they wanted us to stay and wait. I can only assume that they were waiting for Jake, as once they saw you, Esther immediately ordered us to leave. Once you were brought aboard, we left the city behind. And that's everything that I know. There was something completely unbelievable about all this. This must have been a dream. You were just exhausted from all that had happened today, and any moment you would wake up. You slumped to the floor. Your feet are unwilling to hold your weight. Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank you all for all you do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Kate Silverman. Thank you for going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to our 2 gold tier patrons, Zeke and Toby. Y'all are awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if you want to get your names in the credits, get access to all of our Not Safe for Work contents as little as $5 already. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!